A hunt on college move-in day. 2 28-inch suitcases. A middle-aged man drenched in sweat. A freshman girl with a smile that could break your heart. "Sir, could you help me with my bags?" Hours later she's in the dean's office, trembling so hard the sofa creaks. He assaulted me. No cameras. No witnesses. And nobody, not one single person, believes a middle-aged man is innocent. The hush money was $50,000. What it bought wasn't peace. It bought a viral confession page post, cancelled contracts, and 1,000 strangers screaming predator. It bought whispered conversations that stopped the moment his daughter walked into a room. It bought a man who had built furniture with his own 2 hands for 20 years, sitting alone in a dark living room, staring at a television that wasn't turned on. Then it bought an 18-story fall. He thought his death would prove his innocence. All anyone said was, "See. Guilty conscience." Now, time folds back to that sweltering afternoon. His daughter stands outside the dorm, hears that familiar, "Sir, could you help me?" and her hand slides to her stomach. This time, she's rewriting the story. This time, she'll show them just how filthy a girl can be when she weaponizes her own innocence. My name is Maya Sullivan. Half an hour ago, I finished signing the check-in forms at the freshman registration table and dragged the last of my things up to room 512. The room smells like fresh paint and dust, the window unit air conditioner rattling in its frame. I picked the bed by the window. Sunlight cuts through the old aluminum blinds and falls across the gray linoleum floor in long, dusty bars. Outside, a constant rumble of rolling suitcases and parental chatter drifts up from the courtyard. My dad is making my bed. He tucks the fitted sheet under the mattress with the same meticulous care he uses to sand down a tabletop. Hospital corners. He's always done hospital corners, ever since I was little. The sight of his broad, slightly stooped back, the faded blue polo shirt stretched across his shoulders, the few white hairs curling at his temples, it hits me like a punch to the chest. "Dad, it's fine. You don't have to go full military. You don't sleep well, you don't study well," he says without turning around. "Let me do this." I sit on the bare mattress across from him and watch. There is a ghost of sweat on the back of his neck. His hands move with that slow, stubborn precision I've known my whole life. A memory flickers, unbidden, those same hands gripping 2 enormous suitcases, the tendons standing out, the knuckles white. Dragging them up 5 flights of stairs in the August heat. And a girl's voice, syrupy sweet, saying thank you, saying you're so kind, saying won't you come in and cool off for a minute? My stomach knots. I know what happens next. I know because I've already lived it once. My phone buzzes. The class group chat. The orientation meeting is still at 6:30 in McAllister Hall. Same timeline. Same exact sequence of events. The last time, after Dad finished the bed, we had lunch at the dining hall, killed time at a coffee shop, and came back around 2 to grab my student ID. That's when we ran into Jessica Thornton by the front steps of the dorm, flanked by 2 enormous hard-shell suitcases, one magenta, one glossy black, looking lost and helpless in a white sundress. The last time, Dad hoisted those suitcases without a second thought. The last time, it took exactly 15 minutes to destroy his life. I blink, and the dorm room swims back into focus. Dad has moved on to my pillow, fluffing it with the same intensity he'd apply to a stubborn drawer slide. "All right," he says, stepping back to admire his work. "Lunch?" "Lunch," I echo. My voice sounds steady. That surprises me. Inside, my chest is a screaming knot of white-hot anger and something softer, more fragile, that I can't let myself touch yet. Grief. Relief. A desperate, clawing need to wrap my arms around him and never let go. We walk to the dining hall. The air outside is thick as a wet blanket. Cicadas buzz in the sycamores lining the main quad. Students and parents stream past us in both directions, lugging plastic bins, mini fridges, floor lamps. Dad is talking about a new solid wood bookshelf he's been working on back at the shop, a dovetail joint piece he's especially proud of. He flips through photos on his phone to show me. His thumb is calloused and cracked in about 6 places. When you come home for fall break, I'll put it in your room. Looks real sharp. Sounds good, I manage. The dining hall is loud and smells like grilled cheese. We split 2 bowls of chili. Dad talks about the new lumber supplier and how prices have gone up. I nod and stir my chili and steal glances at him when he's not looking, at the lines around his eyes, at the way he tips his spoon just so, at the steady, unremarkable miracle of him being alive. Last time, I sat in this exact chair, eating this exact chili, and had no idea that by dinner time my father would be branded a predator. No idea that within a year, I'd be standing in a morgue, looking at his face through a pane of glass, while an attendant asked me to confirm his identity. I won't let it happen again. After lunch, we walk back toward the dorm. I'm stalling. I point out the library, the new science building, the statue of the school's founder that everyone rubs for luck. Dad rubs the statue's nose solemnly. I almost smile. And then we round the corner and I see her. Jessica Thornton. She stands at the bottom of the dormitory steps, exactly where she stood in my nightmares. 2 gargantuan suitcases flank her like sentinels. Her dark hair is pulled back in a high ponytail. She wears a white sundress and sandals. Her posture radiates a carefully crafted vulnerability, shoulders slightly hunched, hands clasped in front of her, head tilted just enough to catch the light on her cheekbones. She looks like a doe in a Disney movie. She spots us and her whole face brightens. That expression, sweet, relieved, a little desperate, is so precisely calibrated that I can almost see the gears turning behind it. Sir. Her voice is soft, a little breathless. I'm so sorry to bother you, but could you help me with my bags? They're just so heavy, and I can't. There it is. The exact words. My heart slams against my ribs. A cold, electric terror shoots down my arms and into my fingertips. For one long, stretched out second, I can't move. I'm back in the dean's office, watching her cry, watching the disgust curdle every face in the room, watching my dad's shoulders slump under the weight of an accusation so monstrous there is no defense against it. The sound of her weeping. The scrape of a chair. My father's voice, raw and bewildered. I didn't touch her. I didn't. Sir, could you help me? She says again, tilting her head further. Her smile never wavers. Dad opens his mouth. He's about to say yes. He's always about to say yes. I double over. Dad, my stomach. The pain I feel is real. Not the same as what I remember from last time, no, this is sharper, deeper, a wrenching visceral twist that has nothing to do with cramps and everything to do with the poison crawling up my throat. But it does the job. Sweat breaks out on my forehead instantly. My face, when I lift it, is white. Dad's expression flips from friendly to frantic in a heartbeat. Maya. Maya, what's wrong? I don't know, I gasp. It hit me all at once. I clutch my midsection and let my knees buckle just slightly. I think I need a doctor. He's already got an arm around my shoulders, steering me away from the steps. Okay, sweetheart, okay. We're going to the health center. It's right over there. Can you walk? I nod, teeth gritted. Behind us, I hear Jessica's voice, tinged with what might be irritation or might be concern, impossible to tell. Maya. Oh no, do you need me to come with you? No, I grunt, not looking back. We're fine. But my bags. I'm sorry, Dad calls over his shoulder, already guiding me across the walkway. I need to get my daughter to the clinic. I risk a glance back as we turn the corner. Jessica is still standing by her suitcases. She is no longer smiling. Her face, in profile, has gone very still, the way water goes still before something breaks the surface. Beside her, a thin, sunburned man with a luggage cart is struggling to maneuver a dorm fridge through the door. He glances at her, then at us, but doesn't say anything. I lean into my dad and let him half carry me toward the student health center. The nurse on duty is a tired-looking woman with reading glasses pushed up into her gray hair. She takes my temperature, presses on my stomach in a few places, asks about my cycle. The exam room is small and chilly, the paper on the exam table crinkling under me. It smells like rubbing alcohol and artificial lavender. Probably a combination of heat exhaustion and menstrual cramps, she says finally, scribbling on a clipboard. Lie down in observation for a bit, drink some water, and I'll have someone bring you a sports drink. Nothing to worry about. Dad exhales so hard his whole body sags. Thank God. I let him help me into the observation room, a narrow space with 4 curtained beds, blue plastic mattresses, and the low hum of an ancient dehumidifier. 2 of the beds are occupied by students on 4 drips, both asleep. I take the bed nearest the door. I'm going to run to the vending machine and get you something cold, Dad says, already digging in his pocket for change. You stay right here. Dad, wait. He stops. What? I pull my phone from my pocket, the extra phone, the one I bought 3 days ago with cash I'd saved from my summer job. I've already set it up. I've already practiced this. I open the recording app, hit the big red button, and slide the phone into the pocket of his cargo shorts. What's that for? He asks, puzzled. Just take it, I say. I want to make sure you don't get lost. The campus is confusing. If anything happens, I can track you. He frowns, not quite buying it, but he's too worried about me to argue. Maya, you're acting strange. I'm fine. Go. Please. Just, stay on main paths, okay? Don't let anyone take you down any weird shortcuts. He gives me a long, searching look. Then he nods, pats the pocket where my phone now rests, and walks out. The door swings shut. The dehumidifier clicks and hums. I lie back on the crinkly mattress and stare at the water-stained ceiling tiles, and I am absolutely vibrating with terror. I know what's coming. I know she's going to find him. I know she's going to lead him somewhere without cameras, and do to him exactly what she did the first time. The only difference is that this time, I've planted a wire. Last time, Jessica told the disciplinary panel that my father dragged her to a secluded spot behind the old science building. She said he covered her mouth. She said she fought. She had bruises on her arms, scratches on her neck, her dress torn. She cried so hard she hyperventilated. And everyone believed her, because who would do that to herself? Who would weaponize her own body, her own tears, against a stranger? The answer, I now know, is Jessica Thornton. And her Aunt Victoria. And whoever else is in on this little family business. Because it is a business. I spent months after Dad's death piecing it together, long after the university had washed its hands of us and the news cycle had moved on. I found 2 other schools. 2 other middle-aged fathers with small businesses, accused of assault after helping a stranded freshman with her bags. Both cases settled quietly. One for $8,000. One for $12,000. Both families too scared of publicity to fight. The only difference with us was the price tag, $50,000, because my father owned a small but successful custom furniture company, and Jessica's people had done their homework. And there was another difference. We were the ones where it went too far. Where the internet got hold of it. Where the man accused didn't just lose his business, he lost his will to live. I sit up. 5 minutes have passed. Dad should have been back by now. The vending machines are literally across the courtyard. I swing my legs off the bed. My head throbs, but I ignore it. I stuff my feet back into my sneakers and slip out of the observation room. The nurse is on the phone at the front desk and doesn't notice. I push through the main door into the hammering August heat. I run. I run past the humanities building, past the old greenhouse, toward the east side of campus where the science complex gives way to a neglected service road and a patch of overgrown bamboo. I know this route. I've studied the campus map obsessively since I woke up in my childhood bed 3 days ago, gasping and drenched in sweat. I know exactly where the security camera coverage ends. I'm too late to stop it. A scream rips through the stillness, a high, piercing wail that sends birds exploding from the trees. Then Jessica Thornton comes stumbling out of the bamboo grove. Her ponytail is half undone. Her white sundress is torn at the neckline, exposing one shoulder. Angry red scratches rake across her collarbone and throat. Her cheek is swollen, imprinted with the unmistakable outline of a handprint. She looks like she's just survived a violent assault. She careens into the open courtyard in front of the science building and collapses dramatically onto the pavement, sobbing. There are people. Of course there are people. A pair of graduate students in lab coats, a professor carrying a stack of blue books, 3 freshmen with lanyards swinging from their necks. They all stop. They all stare. Help me, Jessica chokes out. Please, someone, he's back there. And then my father walks out of the bamboo. He looks confused. He looks like a man who has just witnessed something he cannot process, something so far outside his understanding of how human beings behave that his brain is still trying to catch up. His face is pale. His hands are empty. He sees the crowd, sees Jessica weeping on the ground, sees the looks of dawning horror and disgust on every face, and he stops dead. I didn't, he starts. Oh my God, a girl in a lab coat breathes. She puts herself physically between my father and Jessica. Don't you come any closer. I didn't touch her. Then why is her dress torn? The girl snaps. Why is her face swollen? You expect us to believe she did that to herself? The exact words. The exact, devastating logic. Last time I heard it from a disciplinary officer. Now I'm hearing it from a stranger, and it lands just the same. It lands like a door slamming shut. I push through the small crowd and grab my father's arm. Dad. Don't say anything else. Maya, I swear to you. I know, I say. I know. I turn to face the gathering knot of students and faculty. Someone is already holding a phone up, filming. Put that down, I say, but my voice gets swallowed by the chaos. More people are arriving. Someone has called campus safety. I can hear a radio crackling somewhere nearby. Jessica continues to sob, her whole body heaving. Her Aunt Victoria materializes seemingly from nowhere, dropping to her knees beside her niece and pulling her into a protective embrace. Victoria Thornton is a sharp-featured woman in a black silk blouse, with the kind of cool, assessing gaze that never quite settles. She looks up at the crowd with a performance of anguish that is, I have to admit, extremely convincing. What did you do to her? Victoria demands, eyes locking onto my father. Nothing, Dad says. His voice is rough but steady now. I did nothing. Liar. Victoria's voice cracks. Someone call the police. The circus moves inside. Student Affairs Coordinator Gregory Lawson meets us in a beige conference room on the 3rd floor of the administration building. He's a short, balding man with gold-rimmed glasses and the harried air of someone who desperately wants every problem to be someone else's responsibility. Dean Marcus Harrison, the Associate Dean of Students, stands by the window with his arms crossed, saying nothing yet but watching everything. Jessica is on a small sofa, wrapped in a blazer someone gave her. Her makeup is streaked. The handprint on her cheek has darkened to an angry purple. Victoria sits beside her, one hand resting protectively on her niece's knee. Every few seconds Victoria glances at her phone, thumb hovering over the screen, as if deciding when to deploy whatever pressure she's got saved up. Dad and I take 2 hard chairs near the door. The room smells like old coffee and carpet cleaner. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. Let's all just take a breath, Lawson says, settling into his chair and folding his hands on the table. Miss Thornton, can you tell us what happened? Take your time. Jessica draws a shuddering breath. I asked him to help me with my luggage. He said yes. Then he said there was a shortcut, that there was a cart we could use, and I followed him. Her voice wavers, dips, catches. When I realized where we were, I tried to leave. But he grabbed me. He told me not to scream. She breaks off, burying her face in her hands. The room is very quiet. Lawson looks at my father with an expression of profound disappointment, as if a personal friend has let him down. Mr. Sullivan. Your account. Dad's jaw tightens. I went to get my daughter a drink from the vending machine. This young woman offered to show me the way. She led me down a path that dead-ended. Then, in front of me, she started slapping her own face. She tore her own dress. She scratched her own neck. Then she ran out screaming. Victoria lets out a short, ugly laugh. You expect us to believe that? A college freshman you've never met, who just arrived on campus, decided to beat herself up to frame you? For what possible reason? It's the knife that cuts every defense. The reason. Lawson nods slowly, as if Victoria has just articulated the universal truth. Miss Thornton, do you want to press charges? Or, given that this situation hasn't escalated to the worst possible outcome, would you consider a resolution within the university? I don't want to ruin her college experience, Jessica whispers, glancing at me with wet, magnanimous eyes. We're roommates. I don't want to call the police. I just want this to go away. That's very generous of you, Lawson says, and I can see the relief unspooling in his shoulders. He turns to my father. Mr. Sullivan, a private settlement is often the best path in cases like this. It protects everyone involved. I'm not paying a dime, Dad says flatly. I didn't do anything. Victoria's expression cools several degrees. She leans back on the sofa and crosses her legs. Then we'll pursue every avenue available to us. Criminal charges. Civil suit. The media. If you want to go to war over this, Mr. Sullivan, I promise you my niece will be believed. And your daughter. She nods toward me. How comfortable do you think her next 4 years will be? Dad's face goes gray. Last time, this was the moment he caved. Last time, the threat to me was enough. He would have done anything, paid anything, to shield me from the fallout. And they knew it. But I am not the same girl who sat frozen in that chair the first time. I have had a year to replay every second, every word, every missed opportunity to fight back. I have had a year to let the rage crystallize into something cold and sharp and patient. I stand up. Miss Thornton, I say, pulling my second phone from my back pocket, you're right that it's hard to believe a stranger would do this for no reason. So let me ask you a question. What's the reason? She blinks at me. What? I'm just curious. Because I've been doing some reading. I unlock the phone and open my notes. 2 other universities in the last 18 months. 2 other fathers who helped a stranded freshman and ended up accused of assault. Both settled privately. One for 8,000. One for 12. Funny coincidence, isn't it? The temperature in the room drops. I feel it. Everyone feels it. Victoria's posture stiffens almost imperceptibly. I have no idea what you're talking about. No. Because I have screenshots. I hold up the phone, though I don't show them anything yet. News reports. Court filings. Names. And a very interesting paper trail connecting you to both cases. This is a gamble. A huge one. I don't have all of it yet, not the smoking gun, not the airtight proof I'll need if this goes to court. But Victoria doesn't know that. And the flicker of something dark and hunted that passes across her face tells me she's not sure how much I actually have. This is absurd, she says, but her voice has lost its edge. He looks confused. He looks like a man who has just witnessed something he cannot process, something so far outside his understanding of how human beings behave that his brain is still trying to catch up. His face is pale. His hands are empty. He sees the crowd, sees Jessica weeping on the ground, sees the looks of dawning horror and disgust on every face, and he stops dead. I didn't, he starts. Oh my God, a girl in a lab coat breathes. She puts herself physically between my father and Jessica. Don't you come any closer. I didn't touch her. Then why is her dress torn? The girl snaps. Why is her face swollen? You expect us to believe she did that to herself? The exact words. The exact, devastating logic. Last time I heard it from a disciplinary officer. Now I'm hearing it from a stranger, and it lands just the same. It lands like a door slamming shut. I push through the small crowd and grab my father's arm. Dad. Don't say anything else. Maya, I swear to you. I know, I say. I know. I turn to face the gathering knot of students and faculty. Someone is already holding a phone up, filming. Put that down, I say, but my voice gets swallowed by the chaos. More people are arriving. Someone has called campus safety. I can hear a radio crackling somewhere nearby. Jessica continues to sob, her whole body heaving. Her Aunt Victoria materializes seemingly from nowhere, dropping to her knees beside her niece and pulling her into a protective embrace. Victoria Thornton is a sharp-featured woman in a black silk blouse, with the kind of cool, assessing gaze that never quite settles. She looks up at the crowd with a performance of anguish that is, I have to admit, extremely convincing. What did you do to her? Victoria demands, eyes locking onto my father. Nothing, Dad says. His voice is rough but steady now. I did nothing. Liar. Victoria's voice cracks. Someone call the police. The circus moves inside. Student Affairs Coordinator Gregory Lawson meets us in a beige conference room on the 3rd floor of the administration building. He's a short, balding man with gold-rimmed glasses and the harried air of someone who desperately wants every problem to be someone else's responsibility. Dean Marcus Harrison, the Associate Dean of Students, stands by the window with his arms crossed, saying nothing yet but watching everything. Jessica is on a small sofa, wrapped in a blazer someone gave her. Her makeup is streaked. The handprint on her cheek has darkened to an angry purple. Victoria sits beside her, one hand resting protectively on her niece's knee. Every few seconds Victoria glances at her phone, thumb hovering over the screen, as if deciding when to deploy whatever pressure she's got saved up. Dad and I take 2 hard chairs near the door. The room smells like old coffee and carpet cleaner. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. Let's all just take a breath, Lawson says, settling into his chair and folding his hands on the table. Miss Thornton, can you tell us what happened? Take your time. Jessica draws a shuddering breath. I asked him to help me with my luggage. He said yes. Then he said there was a shortcut, that there was a cart we could use, and I followed him. Her voice wavers, dips, catches. When I realized where we were, I tried to leave. But he grabbed me. He told me not to scream. She breaks off, burying her face in her hands. The room is very quiet. Lawson looks at my father with an expression of profound disappointment, as if a personal friend has let him down. Mr. Sullivan. Your account. Dad's jaw tightens. I went to get my daughter a drink from the vending machine. This young woman offered to show me the way. She led me down a path that dead-ended. Then, in front of me, she started slapping her own face. She tore her own dress. She scratched her own neck. Then she ran out screaming. Victoria lets out a short, ugly laugh. You expect us to believe that? A college freshman you've never met, who just arrived on campus, decided to beat herself up to frame you? For what possible reason? It's the knife that cuts every defense. The reason. Lawson nods slowly, as if Victoria has just articulated the universal truth. Miss Thornton, do you want to press charges? Or, given that this situation hasn't escalated to the worst possible outcome, would you consider a resolution within the university? I don't want to ruin her college experience, Jessica whispers, glancing at me with wet, magnanimous eyes. We're roommates. I don't want to call the police. I just want this to go away. That's very generous of you, Lawson says, and I can see the relief unspooling in his shoulders. He turns to my father. Mr. Sullivan, a private settlement is often the best path in cases like this. It protects everyone involved. I'm not paying a dime, Dad says flatly. I didn't do anything. Victoria's expression cools several degrees. She leans back on the sofa and crosses her legs. Then we'll pursue every avenue available to us. Criminal charges. Civil suit. The media. If you want to go to war over this, Mr. Sullivan, I promise you my niece will be believed. And your daughter. She nods toward me. How comfortable do you think her next 4 years will be? Dad's face goes gray. Last time, this was the moment he caved. Last time, the threat to me was enough. He would have done anything, paid anything, to shield me from the fallout. And they knew it. But I am not the same girl who sat frozen in that chair the first time. I have had a year to replay every second, every word, every missed opportunity to fight back. I have had a year to let the rage crystallize into something cold and sharp and patient. I stand up. Miss Thornton, I say, pulling my second phone from my back pocket, you're right that it's hard to believe a stranger would do this for no reason. So let me ask you a question. What's the reason? She blinks at me. What? I'm just curious. Because I've been doing some reading. I unlock the phone and open my notes. 2 other universities in the last 18 months. 2 other fathers who helped a stranded freshman and ended up accused of assault. Both settled privately. One for $8,000. One for $12,000. Funny coincidence, isn't it? The temperature in the room drops. I feel it. Everyone feels it. Victoria's posture stiffens almost imperceptibly. I have no idea what you're talking about. No. Because I have screenshots. I hold up the phone, though I don't show them anything yet. News reports. Court filings. Names. And a very interesting paper trail connecting you to both cases. This is a gamble. A huge one. I don't have all of it yet, not the smoking gun, not the airtight proof I'll need if this goes to court. But Victoria doesn't know that. And the flicker of something dark and hunted that passes across her face tells me she's not sure how much I actually have. This is absurd, she says, but her voice has lost its edge. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like a pattern. A lucrative little family business. You find a mark, somebody with money, somebody with a daughter to protect, somebody who'll pay to make it go away. And you send in your niece to set the trap. That's slander, Victoria hisses. No, that's a theory. But you know what's not a theory. I scroll to the recording app on my other phone, the one still sitting in my father's pocket. This. I walk over to Dad, reach into his pocket, and pull out the phone. The recording is still running. I stop it and drag the playback bar back. What is that? Lawson asks warily. Evidence. I hit play. The audio crackles, then clears. You can hear footsteps, the distant hum of cicadas, my father's slightly out-of-breath voice. This doesn't look like the way to the vending machines. Then Jessica's voice, bright and unconcerned. It's a shortcut, I promise. Just through here. A pause. Rustling bamboo. Then my father, this is a dead end. I think we should go back. And then Jessica's voice changes. It hardens. It sheds every trace of the helpless freshman. Sir, let me ask you something. If I run out of here screaming, and my dress is torn, and my face is bruised, who do you think they're going to believe? The silence that follows is the loudest thing I've ever heard. Then the sound of a slap. A second slap. A soft ripping noise, cloth giving way. And Jessica's voice again, steady and clinical, you didn't touch me. So explain the handprints. Explain the scratches. You can't. Footsteps. The scream begins, high and piercing, and then fades as she runs. I stop the playback. The room is absolutely still. Lawson's face has gone the color of old milk. Dean Harrison has uncrossed his arms and is staring at Jessica with an expression that has shifted very gradually from neutral to appalled. Victoria is frozen, her mouth slightly open, her eyes darting between the phone and her niece. Jessica, for the first time, looks genuinely terrified. That's fake, she stammers. That's AI. You can make anything with AI now. It's time-stamped, I say. It's backed up to the cloud. There's a chain of custody. And it's about to be handed over to the police. Police. Victoria blurts. No one said anything about police. You did, I remind her. 5 minutes ago, you demanded someone call the police. I'm just following your suggestion. I dial 911. Jessica lunges for the phone. My father steps between us, not aggressively, just plants himself there, a solid wall of middle-aged indignation, and Jessica pulls up short, breathing hard. Don't, she whispers. Please. Please don't. The operator picks up. 911, what's your emergency? My name is Maya Sullivan. I'm a student at Westbrook University. I'm in the Student Affairs office in the administration building. I need to report an attempted extortion and a false accusation of sexual assault. I have audio evidence. Jessica sinks back onto the sofa. All the performance has drained out of her. What's left is just a 19-year-old girl whose scheme has imploded in the most public possible way, and she looks smaller now, diminished, her torn dress and bruised face no longer a costume but a confession. Maya, she says, and her voice cracks on my name. You don't understand. We needed the money. My brother's tuition, my dad lost his job, my aunt said this was the only way. Stop, Victoria says sharply, but it's too late. The words are out. They hang in the air like smoke. Dean Harrison steps forward and picks up the desk phone. I'm calling campus safety. This is now a formal disciplinary matter, and the university will cooperate fully with law enforcement. He looks at Jessica and Victoria with cold finality. You are both barred from campus pending investigation. And Miss Thornton, your admission to this university is revoked. Victoria rises unsteadily to her feet. The composure she wore like armor all afternoon has cracked into something ugly and desperate. She opens her mouth, thinks better of it, and closes it again. 15 minutes later, 2 officers from the campus police arrive. Officer Reynolds is an older man with a deep, calm voice and the kind of tired eyes that have seen everything. His partner, Officer Park, is younger, sharper, and takes notes in quick, efficient shorthand. They listen to the recording. Twice. They separate us and take statements. At some point a paramedic arrives to photograph Jessica's injuries, self-inflicted, as she eventually admits in a flat, defeated monotone. I watch her from across the room while Officer Reynolds asks me questions. She's not crying anymore. Her face is blank, the way a page is blank after you erase something written in pencil. I search myself for sympathy and find nothing but a cold, clean sense of closure. She wrecked my father's life. She drove him to the roof of a parking garage. She posted about her trauma on social media while he was writing his final letter. Whatever fear she feels now is a fraction of what she deserves. And yet I also see a girl who has been shaped and wielded by the adults around her, a tool in her aunt's hands. That doesn't excuse her. But it makes the whole ugly picture a little more complicated. Dad and I are released after an hour. The police have our contact information. The university has promised a full investigation and, to their credit, Dean Harrison already has a public statement drafted, one that clears my father's name completely. Lawson avoids eye contact with us as we leave. I suspect his job is not going to survive this. We walk out into the evening. The campus is golden with the last light of sunset, long shadows stretching across the quad. The air is finally starting to cool. Somewhere a group of students are playing music on a portable speaker, something acoustic and gentle. It feels surreal. It feels like the world should have stopped spinning, but it hasn't. My father stops walking in the middle of the path. Maya. I turn to face him. How did you know? He asks. The recording. The other cases. You had all of that ready. You knew something was going to happen before it happened. He is not accusing. He sounds bewildered, and heavy, and very, very tired. His blue polo shirt is still damp with sweat. There's a smudge of dirt on his knee from when he knelt to help me on the path earlier. He looks at me like I'm a puzzle he can't quite solve, a door he didn't know existed in a house he built himself. I want to tell him. I want to tell him everything, the jump, the funeral, the year I spent alone in the house he left behind, surrounded by his half-finished furniture and the ghost of his cologne. I want to tell him that I have lived through the worst possible version of this story and that I clawed my way back here, to this exact moment, for one reason and one reason only. But I can't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because if I tell him what he did, what he would have done, he will carry that weight forever. And I have carried it long enough for both of us. I had a bad feeling, I say. When she asked you to help with her bags. Something about her felt off. So I hit record. Just in case. He studies me for a long moment. Then he reaches out and puts his hand on the back of my head, that rough, calloused palm, the same gesture he's made 1,000 times since I was small enough to fit in the crook of his arm. You've gotten sharp, he says quietly. Sharper than me. I had a good teacher. He pulls me into a hug then, quick and fierce, the kind of hug that says everything neither of us knows how to put into words. When he lets go, his eyes are wet, but he's smiling. Come on, he says. Let's find some dinner. I'm starving. We walk toward the campus gates. The streetlights are flickering on one by one, pools of amber light blooming on the sidewalk. My phone buzzes with a message from the class group chat. The evening orientation meeting has been postponed. Someone in the chat asks why. Someone else says they heard there was an incident at the science building. I close the chat and slip the phone into my pocket. Up ahead, I see the thin, sunburned man from earlier, the one with the luggage cart, walking out of the dining hall with his daughter on his arm. She's laughing about something, her ponytail bouncing. He catches my eye and nods, a small, wordless gesture of solidarity. I nod back. Dad is already scanning the street for a restaurant. How about Italian? There's a place around the corner with good reviews. You can get the gnocchi you like. Sounds perfect. We cross the street together, two ordinary people walking into an ordinary evening. The city hums around us, indifferent and enormous. Nobody knows what almost happened. Nobody knows how close the world came to breaking. But I know. And I will carry that knowledge for the rest of my life, not as a burden, but as a compass. It will remind me that monsters don't always have claws, that cruelty can wear a sundress and ask for help with her luggage, and that the truth, if you fight hard enough, can still win. My father holds the restaurant door open for me. The warm scent of garlic and fresh bread rolls out into the street. After you, he says. I step inside. The restaurant is a small, family-run place tucked between a used bookstore and a laundromat. Red and white checkered tablecloths. A candle flickering inside a Chianti bottle on every table. The kind of place my dad loves, nothing fancy, just solid food and a waitress who calls you hon. We slide into a booth by the window. Outside, the last light is draining out of the sky, and the street lamps cast long, amber cones across the sidewalk. We order. Gnocchi for me. Spaghetti and meatballs for him. He also orders a beer, which he rarely does, and I watch him take that first long sip and close his eyes for a second, and I realize, he's shaking. Not visibly. Not in a way anyone else would notice. But I know his hands, know the way he holds a fork, and right now there is a fine tremor running through his fingers that wasn't there this morning. He is processing. The adrenaline is wearing off, and underneath it is the cold, creeping horror of what almost happened. He almost went to jail. He almost lost me. He almost had his name turned into a slur. I want to reach across the table and take his hand, but I don't. He hates being fussed over. So I just sit there and let him drink his beer and stare out the window. She was so young, he says finally. Jessica. He nods. Younger than you, I think. What makes a person like that? I could tell him. I could lay out the whole sordid backstory, the aunt with the gambling debts, the mother who looked the other way, the father who drank away the mortgage, the younger brother who needed tuition money. I spent months learning everything about the Thornton family after Dad died. It didn't make me forgive them. But it made the shape of the evil comprehensible. They weren't criminal masterminds. They were desperate people who had discovered a terrible shortcut and convinced themselves it was justified. I don't know, I lie. Some people just break in the wrong direction. He nods, but I can tell he's not satisfied. My father is a man who believes in reasons. Every warped piece of wood, every misaligned joint, there's always a reason. A change in humidity. A dull blade. A rushed measurement. He has spent his whole life diagnosing problems and fixing them, and the idea that some things are just broken for no reason is fundamentally alien to him. When I was in that bamboo grove, he says quietly, and she started hitting herself, for a second I thought I was losing my mind. I thought maybe I'd had a stroke. Maybe I was hallucinating. Because nobody does that. Nobody. She did. She did. He takes another sip of beer. And if you hadn't put that phone in my pocket. He doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. We both know where it ends. The food arrives. The gnocchi is pillowy and drenched in brown butter and sage. I eat mechanically, barely tasting it. My mind keeps slipping back to the observation room, the beige conference room, the sound of that recording playing back. The look on Jessica's face when she realized she'd lost. It should have felt like victory. Instead it felt like closing a wound that had been left open too long, necessary, but not pleasant. Maya. Dad sets down his fork. There's something I need to ask you. And I need you to be honest with me. I brace myself. The other 2 cases. The ones you mentioned in there. You said you found them by reading news reports. But you've been busy with graduation and packing all summer. When did you have time to dig all that up? I chew a piece of gnocchi very slowly to buy myself a few seconds. I couldn't sleep last night. Nervous about college, I guess. I was up late online, and I stumbled across this forum where people were talking about campus extortion scams. The other cases were mentioned there. I just followed the links. It's thin. I know it's thin. He knows it's thin. But he also knows, or he's learning, that his daughter has changed in ways he doesn't fully understand, and that sometimes the details matter less than the outcome. Okay, he says, and I can hear him choosing to let it go. Okay. We finish our meal in a comfortable silence. He pays the check, over my protests, and we walk back to the car. The drive to the motel takes 15 minutes. He's staying at a budget place just off the highway, the kind with a flickering neon sign and an ice machine that clanks all night. I'm supposed to sleep in the dorm, but neither of us suggests that. Not tonight. He gets a second key card from the front desk and hands it to me. In case you change your mind and want to crash here. Thanks. His room is on the 2nd floor, overlooking the parking lot. It's small and clean and smells faintly of bleach. 2 queen beds with stiff white sheets. A landscape painting bolted to the wall. The air conditioner rattles in its frame, a sound that is already becoming weirdly comforting. I sit on the edge of the bed nearest the door. My body feels heavy, like I'm wearing a coat made of lead. Dad kicks off his shoes and sits on the other bed, facing me. You should get some sleep, he says. It's been a long day. So should you. He smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. I don't think I can sleep. Every time I close my eyes I see her face. Not the crying one, the other one. The one she made right before she started hitting herself. It was like watching a mask slip off. I know exactly what he means. I saw that face too, in my first life, but I didn't recognize it for what it was until it was too late. The moment the victim act drops and the predator underneath peeks through, it's the most chilling thing I've ever witnessed. She can't hurt us anymore, I say. The police have her. The university expelled her. It's over. Is it? He looks at me with an intensity that makes my chest ache. Because I keep thinking about those other fathers. The ones who paid. The ones whose names never got cleared. They're still out there somewhere, living with that stain. And nobody ever apologized to them. I don't have an answer for that. Justice, in my experience, is rarely tidy. It doesn't go back and unruin lives. It just draws a line and says, from here forward, the rules apply again. Maybe we can do something, I say. Find them. Help them clear their names. You're not the only one who deserves that. He considers this. Maybe. But not tonight. Tonight I just want to be glad my daughter is smarter than I am. I'm not smarter. You are. You saw something I didn't. You acted on it. That's not just smart, that's brave. He pauses. I'm proud of you, Maya. I don't think I say that enough. The lump in my throat is sudden and sharp. In my first life, the last conversation I had with my father was an argument. I was angry at him for settling, for paying the money, for not fighting harder. I said things I can never take back. And then he was gone, and I never got to tell him that underneath the anger, I was just scared. Scared of losing him. Now he's sitting 3 feet away from me, alive and rumpled and faintly sunburnt, telling me he's proud. I love you, Dad, I say. My voice cracks on the last word. His expression softens. He gets up, crosses the space between the beds, and sits down next to me. He doesn't say anything. He just puts his arm around my shoulders and pulls me against his side, the way he used to when I was little and had a nightmare. He smells like sawdust and deodorant and the faint, lingering trace of the beer he had at dinner. I cry. I don't mean to. I've been holding it together all day, all year, if I'm being honest, and the dam just breaks. I cry for the father I lost, and for the one I got back. I cry for the year I spent alone in a house full of unfinished furniture, eating cereal for dinner because I couldn't bring myself to cook. I cry for the girl I used to be, the one who believed the world was fair and good people were safe. Dad doesn't ask why I'm crying. He just holds me, one hand rubbing slow circles on my back, and lets me soak the shoulder of his shirt. When I finally run out of tears, I feel hollowed out and strangely light. Like a fever that's finally broken. Sorry, I mumble, pulling back and wiping my face with my sleeve. Don't be sorry. It's been a hard day. Understatement of the century. He laughs. A real laugh, surprised out of him. Yeah, I guess it is. I kick off my sneakers and lie back on the bed. The ceiling is the same textured white stucco as every other motel ceiling in America. I stare at it and listen to the air conditioner and feel my heartbeat slowly return to normal. Dad? Yeah. Can we go to the workshop tomorrow? Before you drive home. I want to see the new bookshelf. He's quiet for a moment. You want to go to the shop? Yeah. Okay, he says, and I can hear the smile in his voice. Okay, we'll go in the morning. I fall asleep to the sound of him getting ready for bed, the rustle of his duffel bag, the clink of his keys on the nightstand, the familiar rhythm of his breathing as he settles onto the other mattress. It's the most peaceful sleep I've had in a year. I dream of wood shavings curling under a planer, pale and fragrant. I dream of my father's hands, steady on a chisel. I dream of sunlight slanting through dusty workshop windows. And when I wake up, he's still there. The workshop is a 30-minute drive from campus, in a converted garage behind the house where I grew up. Dad bought the property 20 years ago, when Mom was still alive and the furniture business was just a side hustle he ran out of the basement. Now the basement is a proper workshop with industrial ventilation and a wall of clamps and enough lumber stacked in the back to build a small house. It smells of sawdust and tung oil and that particular earthy sweet scent of freshly cut oak. We pull into the driveway a little after 9. The morning is already hot, the kind of muggy Midwestern heat that makes the air shimmer over the asphalt. I follow Dad into the workshop and he flicks on the overhead fluorescents. The shelves along the walls are lined with half-finished projects, a rocking chair missing its runners, a set of cherry wood end tables waiting for their final coat of varnish, a jewelry box with dovetail joints so precise they look like they were cut by a machine. The bookshelf stands in the center of the workshop, draped in a canvas drop cloth like a piece of statuary waiting to be unveiled. Ready? Dad asks. Ready. He pulls off the cloth. It's beautiful. A 6-foot-tall bookcase in courtesan white oak, with adjustable shelves and a subtle arch to the top rail. The wood has been sanded to a satiny smoothness, and the grain flows in golden ribbons across the sides. There are no nails, no screws, just flawless joinery, each piece fitting into the next with the quiet precision of a secret. Dad, this is amazing. He rubs the back of his neck, embarrassed. It's not finished. Still needs a coat of oil. And I was thinking maybe a subtle stain to bring out the grain. It's perfect. I run my hand along one of the shelves. The wood is cool and impossibly smooth under my palm. I think about all the books I'm going to put on these shelves, novels and textbooks and the battered paperbacks my mom left behind. I think about coming home for fall break and seeing this bookcase in my room, glowing softly in the afternoon light. I think about all the things I almost lost. You know, Dad says, leaning against the workbench, I was going to surprise you with it. Have it installed before you came home for Thanksgiving. I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad I got to see it here. Why? I traced the grain of the wood with my fingertip. Because this is where it was made. This is where you work. I don't come in here enough. He looks around the workshop as if seeing it for the first time. The dust motes floating in the shafts of sunlight. The pegboard of tools arranged by size. The coffee mug on the corner of the workbench, still half full from yesterday. Your mom used to come in here all the time, he says quietly. She'd sit on that old stool and read while I worked. Said the sound of the sander was soothing. I remember that. Faintly. Mom on the stool with her legs crossed, a paperback open in her lap, her hair pulled back in a scarf. She died when I was 8. Cancer. Fast and brutal. After she was gone, Dad threw himself into the business, and I threw myself into school, and we both got very good at not talking about the empty space at the center of our lives. I miss her, I say. Me too. Every day. He picks up a rag and wipes a smear of sawdust off the bookshelf. She would have been proud of you. Getting into a good school. Handling yourself the way you did yesterday. He pauses. She was always tougher than me. You get that from her. I don't feel tough. I feel like a bundle of raw nerves wrapped in skin. But I understand what he means. There's a difference between being tough and being unafraid. Tough is being terrified and doing the thing anyway. Help me with something, he asks. What? He hands me a piece of fine grit sandpaper. The inside corners. My fingers are too big to get in there. I take the sandpaper and kneel down next to the bookshelf. For the next hour, we work in companionable silence, him applying oil to the broad surfaces, me sanding the tight corners. The workshop fills with the clean, citrusy scent of tung oil. The radio on the workbench plays classic rock at low volume. Outside, a lawnmower buzzes in a neighbor's yard. It's the most normal morning I've had since I woke up in my childhood bed 3 days ago with a scream locked behind my teeth and the memory of a funeral still burning in my chest. Dad? Mim. Are you okay? I mean, really okay? After everything that happened yesterday. He sets down his brush and wipes his hands on his apron. Honestly, I don't know. I keep going back and forth between being angry and being grateful. Angry at her, at the aunt, at that useless coordinator who wanted us to settle. Grateful that you were there. That you thought fast. You didn't do anything wrong. I know. But I keep thinking, if you hadn't been there, if you hadn't had that bad feeling, I would have walked right into it. I would have helped her with her bags, and then she would have found some other way to trap me. The whole thing was a setup from the start. And I didn't see it. That's not your fault. Maybe not. But it scares me, Maya. It scares me that people like that exist. That they can look you in the eye and smile while they're planning to destroy you. He shakes his head. I've been building furniture for 20 years. I know wood. I know tools. I know how to fix things. But I don't know how to protect myself from that. I set down my sandpaper. You don't have to protect yourself alone. That's what family is for. He looks at me for a long moment. Then he nods, slowly. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher, I say again, and this time he smiles for real. We finish the bookshelf around noon. Dad promises to deliver it to my dorm room before the end of the semester. We grab sandwiches from the deli down the street and eat them sitting on the tailgate of his pickup truck, watching the clouds build on the horizon. Rain coming, he observes. Good. It'll cool things off. He nods. We finish our sandwiches in silence. When it's time for him to drive me back to campus, I feel a pang of something sharp and bittersweet. I don't want him to leave. I want to keep him in my sight forever, where I can make sure nothing bad ever happens to him again. But I can't. That's not how life works. He has to go back to his business, and I have to start my classes, and we have to trust that the world won't try to break us again. Before I get out of the truck, he hands me a small, flat package wrapped in brown paper. What's this? Open it when you're back in your room. I hug him, hard. He hugs me back, and I can feel the solid, steady beat of his heart against my cheek. Call me if you need anything, he says. Anything at all. I will. I watch his truck disappear around the corner, and then I walk back to my dorm. The common room is buzzing with new students. Someone has put up a welcome banner. I find my room, my real room, the one I was supposed to share with Jessica, and discover that the university has reassigned me a single for the semester. In light of recent events, the note on the door says, I'm grateful. I sit on my bed and unwrap the package Dad gave me. It's a small wooden plaque, made from the same quartersawn oak as the bookshelf. The edges are beveled, the surface polished to a glassy sheen. Burned into the wood, in Dad's careful, blocky handwriting, are 3 words. Proof over fear. I hang it on the wall above my desk. Every time I look at it, I'll remember, the truth matters, but only if you're willing to fight for it. And sometimes fighting means hitting record before anyone else thinks to. Outside, the promised rain begins to fall, fat, heavy drops that spatter against the window and blur the lights of the campus into soft golden halos. The air cools. The cicadas fall silent. I lie back on my bed, still in my clothes, and let the sound of the rain wash over me. For the first time in a very long time, I am not afraid of what comes next. A week later, Officer Reynolds calls with an update. Jessica Thornton has been formally charged with attempted extortion and filing a false police report. Her Aunt Victoria faces additional charges related to the previous 2 cases, which have now been reopened. The families in those cases have been contacted. One of them, the father who paid $8,000, apparently broke down crying on the phone when Reynolds told him his name was being cleared. He asked me to thank you, Reynolds says. Said he's been carrying that weight for 2 years. Lost his job. His marriage almost fell apart. And now he gets to tell his kids the truth. What about the other one? Still trying to reach him. He moved after the settlement. But we'll find him. I thank Reynolds and hang up. I'm sitting on a bench outside the library, watching students stream past with their backpacks and coffee cups. It's a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. And yet something has shifted. A small fissure has opened in the wall of cynicism I built around myself after Dad died, and through it, a little light is getting in. Jessica's brother did not get his tuition money. Her mother is facing charges as an accessory. Victoria Thornton's assets have been frozen. I should feel satisfaction, and part of me does, but mostly I feel tired. The kind of tired that settles into your bones and takes a long time to shake off. I don't forgive them. I may never forgive them. But I understand them a little better now, and understanding is its own kind of release. It lets you stop asking, why me, and start asking, what now? What now is college? What now is classes and new friends and late-night study sessions in the library? What now is calling my dad every Sunday and hearing the relief still fresh in his voice? What now is a bookshelf waiting for me at home, and a wooden plaque on my wall, and a future that no longer feels borrowed? The rain starts again, a soft drizzle this time. I pull up my hood and walk toward the dining hall. The thin, sunburned man from move-in day passes me on the path. He's with his daughter again. She's wearing a Westbrook hoodie now, fully settled in, and they're laughing about something. He recognizes me and raises a hand in greeting. I wave back. The world didn't break. We didn't let it. And somehow, impossibly, beautifully, that turns out to be enough.